Ever get kind of tongue-tied when you're speaking English?
Happens to the best of us.
Well, we're diving deep into pauses today. Not just, why they happen, but how we can use them to our advantage.
They can be a secret weapon, really.
Exactly. And we're looking at an episode from the Language Unlocked podcast all about pausing in English.
It's amazing what we can learn from just, those moments of silence.
Oh, absolutely. Like, the podcast makes it clear pausing, it's something everyone does. It's not a sign that you're not fluent.
Right. Not at all. It's like if you're cooking something complex, you're chopping, stirring, checking the oven. You need a minute sometimes before you, add the next ingredient.
I get it. Your brain's multitasking.
Exactly. Speaking's kind of like that.
Okay, so what are some of the ways that we pause, when we speak?
Well, one that everyone knows is it's what we call the thinking pause. I remember that example from the podcast. It was like, I need to buy some milk at the store.
Oh, yeah, totally. That's all of us.
Like your brain's searching for the right word.
Yeah. It's like, hold on, gotta find it.
It just shows that pauses are, they're natural. It's how our brains, process language. And then you've got filler pauses, the ums, all those little sounds.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of those.
We all are.
I think is my go-to.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you have a favorite? A go-to filler?
Definitely. But I never realized that they do something. Like they have a purpose.
They absolutely do. They're not just random. They're like placeholders in the conversation. They let the other person know that you're going to keep talking, even if you need like a second to think.
So they just keep things moving smoothly.
Exactly. It's like signaling, hold on, I'm still here, my brain's catching up.
That makes a lot of sense. And then there's grammatical pauses, right? It's just like pausing where the punctuation is.
Right. Like imagine if you read a sentence without any pauses.
It would sound so weird.
It'd be like rushed and confusing.
Oh, totally.
Like trying to, chug a whole smoothie without stopping.
Yeah, exactly. You need those little breaks. So grammatical pauses help us break down all the information, and it creates that nice rhythm, when we're speaking. But here's where it gets really interesting. Like the whole cultural side of pausing.
Oh, yeah.
The podcast talked about how pauses can mean totally different things, depending on where you're from.
Exactly. Like in English, a pause might be seen as, you're not sure, you're hesitating.
Right.
But in some cultures, like Japan was mentioned, if you pause after someone's spoken, it actually shows that you're considering what they said.
So it's like a sign of respect.
Yeah, exactly. A sign of respect. So someone from a culture that really values pauses, they might think that a fast talker, an English speaker, is being rude.
Oh, that's a good point. And on the flip side, we might think that someone who pauses a lot isn't confident.
Exactly. It just shows how important it is to be aware of those differences.
Wow, it's amazing, isn't it? Like how much these tiny pauses, how much they can impact things.
It really is.
And there's another thing that really stuck with me. It was something the podcast called the confidence paradox.
The idea that pausing can actually make you sound more confident.
Yeah, I always thought speaking fast and, fluently made you seem more confident.
It's a common thought, yeah. But think about it. A confident speaker, they're not afraid to take their time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not afraid to choose their words carefully.
That's true.
They use those pauses on purpose to emphasize things.
Right.
To let the message sink in.
So it's about being in control when you speak.
Exactly. When you rush, you're more likely to trip up, to lose your train of thought.
And that definitely doesn't sound confident.
Not at all. But when you pause, it gives you a chance to connect with whoever you're talking to.
And it makes you sound more like, in charge.
Exactly. Like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like when there's silence in a song, those rests actually make the music better.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's not about emptiness. It's about creating space for your message to really land.
I'm totally seeing pauses in a new light now. So how do we use all this in real life? The podcast gave some good tips. Maybe we can add to those.
For sure. One of the best ways to get better at pausing is just, to practice. Practice speaking out loud.
The more you do it, the easier it gets, right?
Exactly. It'll start to feel more natural.
And it doesn't have to be anything formal. You could sing along with an English songs. Or even just talk about what you're doing.
Oh, that's a fun idea. Like, I'm walking to the kitchen. Okay, opening the fridge now. What should I eat?
Yeah, exactly. Make it a game. And the podcast also mentioned preparing, if you have a big conversation or you're giving a presentation.
Right. It can really help to have some structure to your thoughts.
So you're not, umming and ahing so much.
Exactly. Just jotting down a few bullet points or making a mind map can keep you on track.
And speaking of those thinking pauses, I guess if you know more words, That could help too.
Oh, for sure. The bigger your vocabulary, the less you'll have to, like, search for the right word,
Right, right.
especially if you know you're going to be talking about a specific topic.
So if you work in tech, you should know all the tech terms.
Exactly. And if you're learning English, well, there are so many resources, apps, flashcards, all kinds of things.
It's all about finding what works for you, I guess. But the biggest takeaway for me is that we should actually like the pause.
Yeah, don't be afraid of it. See it as a chance, an opportunity, a chance to connect with the person you're talking to.
And really get your message across.
Exactly. Like you're letting your words sink in.
It's like reframing it. Like instead of being scared of the silence, it's actually a moment of power.
I love that. Just a little shift in how you think about it, but it can make a big difference in how you see yourself and how other people see you.
Okay, I have to say, I'm already looking at pauses totally differently. Like we've cracked some kind of secret code to how people talk.
It's kind of like that, yeah. Now that we're thinking about them, it makes you wonder, can we start to notice pauses in how other people speak?
Oh, that's interesting. Like what could we learn from watching how politicians talk? Or actors? Or even, our friends and family?
We might pick up on things that we haven't really thought about before. Like, can you recognize those different types of pauses? The thinking ones, the filler ones, the grammatical ones.
And maybe you can see patterns in how people pause. Like, do they always use certain filler words when they're, nervous or trying to stall?
Or how the pauses change, depending on what they're talking about. Like how long they are, how often they happen.
Wow, this is like a whole new level of understanding how we talk to each other. It makes me want to pay attention to all the pauses I hear. And who knows, maybe we can even use what we learn to get better at pausing ourselves.
Exactly. It's amazing how much there is to learn
Yeah.
about how we communicate. And we'd love to hear from you, our listeners.
Yes. Have you had any of those aha moments about pauses since you started listening to this deep dive? Maybe you're noticing things you didn't before. Let us know. We want to keep talking about this. I bet we'd get some interesting stories about how people use pauses.
Yeah, it's like it's a whole new way to listen, isn't it?
Totally. It makes me think how pauses are used differently depending on, like movies and TV and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like in a movie, a good pause can make things so much like more intense.
Right. Or a comedian might use pauses to be funnier.
Exactly. Pauses can change how we see things.
Right. They can make us feel a certain way.
They're not just silent. Like they can add meaning and even emotion to what we're saying.
Whoa, it's like we've got this secret language we never even knew about.
And now you can't unhear them.
Yeah, once you start noticing them, that's it.
It makes you listen in a whole different way.
It's almost like, I don't know, a superpower. You can pick up on those little things and understand like what people are really thinking.
It definitely makes you think more carefully about how we talk to each other.
Well, I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today. Anything else before we wrap things up, this deep dive into pauses?
Just this, don't be afraid of being quiet. Like use it. It's not just empty space. It's a chance to connect with people, to make your message strong.
I love that. So everyone listening, next time you pause, don't worry, don't rush, just breathe, get your thoughts together, and let the pause do its thing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into, all the little things about speaking English. We'll catch you next time.